We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk, 1180. So you've busted your chops, you've gone to school, you raised a family, paid your taxes the entire time, paid down your mortgage, put a little bit of money away for retirement. But now the system's changing. There are almost more takers than makers in our society. You're paying for somebody else's free lunch. Our next guest wrote another eye-opening book, A Nation of Moochers by Charles Sykes. Charlie, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Thank you very much.
So, are more people eating a free lunch than paying for that lunch?
Well, that's of course the question is, at what point do we reach the tipping point between the makers and takers in American society? And I'm not sure we're there yet, but there's a lot of troubling numbers out there, including the fact that we have 49.5% of Americans that pay nothing in federal income tax. At the same time, dependency is at an all-time post-Depression high. And in fact, last year, for the first time, the government paid out more money in benefits than it took in total in income taxes.
Oh,
so we're really at one of those moments where you're looking around, and you laid it out, I think, pretty well. Whether or not the people, that shrinking group of makers, are really being turned into piggy banks for what I describe as the Moocher culture.
Well, it's funny. That number was at 47.5% for the longest time, and that 49% number, I guess that's a new Heritage survey that just came out, Heritage Foundation. So we're looking at around the corner. It's going to be over 50%.
Right, and that's one of the key. That's one of the key tipping points that we would get. And I'm sorry to overuse that phrase. But in the book, as you run through just the explosion of the bailouts, the handouts, the transfer payments, the entitlement, you begin to look at an America where a majority of Americans, maybe a rather substantial majority of households, receive more money from the federal government than they pay in. Now, that has tremendous political implications. It has tremendous economic implications. And it also has just a lot of implications for the culture we have. Because once again, if you begin to reward taking more than making, well, guess what you're going to get more of?
This is exactly why I believe Obama can't be defeated in the coming election, because we've got so many people that are taking, and they're all going to vote for Obama.
Well, this is one of the concerns that I think a lot of people have, and I don't think it's an accident, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, because I think that you have a number of progressive commentators who are very open about this. In fact, in the book, I quote at length from an essay that Thomas Edsall, who used to be the political writer for the Washington Post, wrote. And he wrote a piece called The Obama Coalition. And the Obama Coalition is basically, you put together your sort of social democratic elites in the universities, plus all of the different groups that receive government benefits, government employees, people on food stamps, people on various other transfer programs. And he says you can get to a point where you have a permanent electoral majority. And so I don't think it is an accident that you have, over the last couple of years, this massive push to expand government dependency, because let's be honest about it. Politicians have figured out a long, long time ago that you can buy elections, you can buy other people's, you can buy votes by handing out other people's money.
Charlie, I got the book last night from the publisher, and I have to tell you, I spent about an hour and a half in it, and I couldn't set it down. And you've got these little minuets in between chapters, and one of them, actually, it's page 3, scenes from the Moocher Nation. It's a little question and answer session here. Why are you here? To get some money. What kind of money? Obama money. Where is it coming from? Obama. And where did Obama get it? I don't know. It's his stash. I don't know. I don't know where he got it from, but he's giving it to us to help us. We love him, and that's why we voted for him.
Detroit, Michigan.
Yes, October 7th, 2009. Incredible.
That's classic, and if you hear the audio, you actually hear the audio of that. It's on YouTube. It's even more dramatic, and I play that on my radio show quite a bit, because it is the mentality that you have across the board in this country, where people are lining up, whether they're, and there's a lot of corporate welfare as well. People lining up. Well, what are you here for? I'm here for the money, from the government. Well, where do they get it? I don't know. I don't care where they get it. Because even though you and I know that there's no such thing as a free lunch or a free cell phone or a free car or a free bailout, the attitude is now, if it's free to me, it's free. And there's a limitless pot of money somewhere out there. Now, people may understand that we have this massive debt and this massive deficit, that it's unsustainable, that sooner or later we're going to run out of that money. But as long as the government's handing out money, we have more and more Americans who are saying, hey, why not me? Why don't I get something as well? Because it must come from the stash.
Right. We're having a conversation with Charlie Sykes, author of A Nation of Moochers. So are we starting to shift mentally from a nation where we celebrated hard work to one that expects a free lunch?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm most concerned about. You know, we can talk about the political implications and the economic implications, and those are huge. But there's also the change in the character of the country. Every single time we bail out irresponsibility, greed, recklessness, we undermine a culture of responsibility. We undermine that sense that we are responsible for our own lives, that we need to make good choices. And so what I'm seeing is that we still have, and I don't want to underestimate it, we still have that sense of American hard work, the Protestant work ethic, etc. But I think we've been drawing it down. We think we have these two parallel cultures. We have that old-fashioned culture that says there's a stigma to be attached to being on the dole, that I want to work hard. But every time we expand it, we chip away at that a little bit more. And, for example, in the chapter that I have about food stamps, one of the important points that I would hope people would take from that is the fact that we are aggressively trying to undermine any stigma attached to having the government pay for things. And that's what I'm seeing over the last couple of years, is that, the people in the past who would have never had their hand out, never gone to the public trough, now are shrugging their shoulders and saying, hey, look, if everybody else is there, why not me?
Well, as far as food stamps, we don't. We now issue a credit card in California, so nobody will know that you are on food stamps.
Yes,
which is interesting. And then, go ahead.
To make it easy. Yeah, to make it easy. In fact, there's some very entertaining rap songs about my EBT card, and it's free. But so we've not only handed out the money, but we've taken away the stigma. One of the reasons why I called the book A Nation of Moochers, I could have written it about the entitlement culture or the handout culture or anything, but I think it's time to bring back an old-fashioned phrase, so that at least we're willing to call it what it is, because it is judgmental, it's pejorative, and if you're a corporation and you've just jumped on the Gulfstream jet to go and curry favor in Washington so that you get some sort of a bailout or some sort of pork, don't pretend that it's anything other than you're a moocher too.
Well, do you believe there's a gap between someone on unemployment and the wholesale expansion of dependency?
Well, that's one of those interesting questions, because I don't have a problem with the short-term, hand up. If something bad has happened, it's what happens when you get to 99 weeks. What happens when it becomes a way of life? What happens when you've turned something which was supposed to be a temporary stopgap into a culture of dependency? So yeah, there is a real problem there. And I do understand. I do have some sympathy for people who need to get through a rough patch. But I think that's been used as an excuse now to expand this vast expansion of the welfare state, the dependency state that we've seen in the last couple of years.
It's interesting mentioning the 99 weeks. I love Newt Gingrich's comment. He was a guest on our show a couple months ago, but he said, in 99 weeks you can get yourself an AA degree.
Oh, absolutely. It was never intended to be that long. And then one of the things that I found that was interesting, and I have the chapter, I think it's called Why Get a Job? There have been a lot of economic studies, including by people who are right now in the Obama administration, who've documented that the longer you extend unemployment, the higher the unemployment rate is going to be. Because, and again, this shouldn't be rocket science, that when people figure out that it's easier to sit home on your couch than to go out and do a dirty job, guess what? They're going to stay home. And we've done that. There's lots of stories around the country where people will say, you know what, I'm going to wait for my unemployment to run, and I will go back and get a job. And there are some economists, including some of the people who work for the president, who've calculated that you're adding points to the unemployment record, the unemployment rate, simply by extending and expanding the unemployment benefits.
I can attest to that. I've tried to hire some people, and they want to stay on unemployment.
Yeah, because it's cheaper. Sure. When we come back from the break, Charlie, I want to talk to you a little bit about insensitivity. We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk 1180.